Hello, my name is Kevin Snyder here for Tuts Plus. Let's jump right in and see what we're going to be making today. So today we're going to be making a look that's similar to what you get from the Plexus plugin in Adobe After Effects. We're going to be utilizing Cinema 4D for this look, and I know that this look has been created a lot of different times with some different strategies. I'm hoping to bring you some new techniques to be able to pull off this look. We're going to look at 3 free plugins that'll help you do this. Some of these plugins require the use of thinking particles, but I'm going to show you real easily how we can clone thinking particles onto our polygons and make this happen. So we're also going to look at some lighting that makes it look really nice and renders fairly quickly. So we will not be using globe illumination because I've ran into some problems with flickering and just render times with that. So we're going to take a look at how can we make something look cool but also get it out of the computer without too much of a wait. So without further ado, let's jump in and get started. Okay, here in Cinema 4D, let's jump right in. I'm going to apply this technique to a piece of text, okay, just so I can show you some of the strategies that I use to kind of try and break it up into even polygons. So I'm going to start with MoGraph and MoText. And I'm just going to do one letter for right now. Let's just do a plus sign here, and I'm going to make it bold. Let me go ahead and put this in the middle. For the height, I'm just going to change this to 300. And obviously, different fonts that you use and different letters, you're going to have to use some different strategies to probably break those up into even polygons. And they don't have to be even polygons, it's just kind of the look that I'm going for. Okay, very good. So now if we come in here, we want to subdivide our extrusion. So I'm going to change this to maybe 3. Now on the caps, one thing that I've tried to do is if you change this to quadrangles and do regular grid and bring this down, seems like a good idea, but it doesn't really do a very good job breaking up the extrusion, and then we get these weird pieces along the edge. So I'm going to uncheck that so that we just get even polygons here. So we have 5 here on the front. So we need to go ahead and make this an editable object. So I'm just going to use this script here, edit optimize. And once we do that, we have our original text, and then we have the mode text here that is editable. Now, I'm going to go ahead and just throw a texture on this real quick so we can see. And we're going to go to mesh, and we want commands. We want to subdivide this. I'm going to go ahead and tear this off. On our subdivide, let's just check the settings, make sure that it's on 1. And so we subdivide once. And just for fun, let's subdivide it again. It might be a little bit too much, but what the heck, let's go with it. All right, so now we need to go ahead and shatter this according to our polygons here. So I'm going to go to MoGraph, PolyFX. I'm going to make it a child of the text. And in order for this to work, so at first nothing happens. In order for this to work, we need to apply an effect to PolyFX. We're going to go to MoGraph, and Effectors, we're going to apply random. And so this random effector is affecting position. Let's also go ahead and affect rotation. So let's go ahead and change this to 180, 180, and 180. Okay, so the first time I did this too, I went to fall off and I came in here to linear, and I thought, okay, well, let's just move this through our shape here. Okay, and of course it's working okay right now. Let's see if I can make it do it. Okay, of course it's working right now. Okay, one problem I have with this, one problem I have is that I'm actually using the random. Okay, let me change this back to infinite and come back down to PolyFX just so I can show you. If we come down here to linear and move this through, you can see that it jumps, right? And that's what I wanted to show you. So you make sure you don't apply the fall off to the polyFX here, okay, because you get this jerky motion here. So let's change that back to infinite, go back to random, let's change this back to linear, okay, and we're gonna make this a little bit longer. We're gonna rotate it. So I'm holding down shift to snap it even increments. Let's go ahead and move this a little bit closer. And okay, my fall off's at 100, just so that we get a nice gradual change as we go through here. Okay, looking good. All right, so now we need to connect all these polygons with lines to get that classic Plexus look. And obviously, your object doesn't have to be nice, even polygons like this. It could be, you know, any way you want it to look, you can do it with these techniques. So let's jump in and look at one of the plugins that we're going to do. We're going to actually look at 3 different plugins here on how to get this look, and each one has its own strengths and weaknesses. So this first plugin we're going to do, it's free, right? It's called Uber Tracer, and I've heard that there's an update coming to it. I haven't actually checked that out yet. This is an older version of the plugin. It can be a little bit buggy. I'm in R15, and so you just want to make sure you save frequently when you're working with this plugin, because it can be prone to crash your system. So with Uber Tracer here, we're going to drop in our Motex polygon object here, and we will leave this on web, and we're going to get points from elements. And let's turn off limit distance for right now. Now, one thing that I've found out here is if you apply a texture to your polygon object that has Uber Tracer applied to it, you will not see the line. So we have to delete this texture object. And here we have a ton of lines. So let's go in here and actually limit the distance. And let's actually bring this down. Let's go 10. Okay. So now you can see we're already starting to get that look here, right? If we come in here, we can see that. And let's go ahead and texture our text here so that we can kind of see it better. So I'm going to put it in a null, so Alt-G. And I'm just going to name the null here. Let's just name this text. And I'm going to do just, well, actually, I'm just going to go ahead and leave it gray for right now. We'll show you what we're going to do with that in a minute. All right. So as this starts to, oh, and let's go ahead and animate our random effector here, just so we can get a little motion. So I'm going to bring this out right before it starts to, let's see, we have it on the x-axis. Let's go ahead and hold down Control and click to set a keyframe. Let's come out here just to 90 frames, and we'll just have this kind of come apart. All right, so it looks very cool. Now, one problem is before it starts to move, we can see the lines in here, right? And so that's not good. Let's go down in here to Uber Tracer, and let's animate the maximum line length. So if we bring this down to 0, okay, and let's go ahead and let's come out here just a couple frames, right to where it starts to come apart. Let's set a keyframe there, and then I'm just going to come out to like 20 frames here, and then bring it up. Let's see what that gets us here. So this is nice because it's saying that the maximum line length can be 6 centimeters. So as these polygons get further and further away, the line's going to go away, and then obviously our minimum line length here is 0, and we can actually maybe change that to 1. Okay, and I think I want to come back here and change the the maximum line length maybe to 10. Okay, but maybe we want to take that keyframe out just a little bit so as this thing comes apart. Okay, looking pretty good. Now I'm going to go ahead and save this really quick, and just to make sure that we don't lose our work so far. All right, so now if we come in here and try and render this, obviously we can't see the lines and it doesn't look very good. So let's take a look at some different ways we can actually get lines to render. So if we come in here into render settings, we can add sketch and tune, right? I'm going to turn off all these, and if we select splines, we can come in here. Now if I render this, we can see the splines. Obviously it doesn't look that great right there, so if we go into render for line AA, we can come in here to best, and maybe even on the shading. Right now background is on color, so that's why the background is rendering as white, right? And when I applied this, we got a default sketch and tune material down here. So if we go down here, we can come in here into like the thickness, maybe change it to 1. And obviously, you know, sketch and tune is very deep, and we can go ahead and play with all these settings in here to get something that we like. Now, I've kind of played around with it. I don't particularly love the results from sketch and tune for this particular look, but you know, it may be something that you're going for. So I just wanted to point out that, you know, sketch and tune is one way to get your splines to render. So I'm going to go ahead and turn that off. Another way is to go ahead and add a sweep object here. And then let's also add a spline. Let's go add a circle. I'm going to change the radius to like 0.2, really small. Let's make the circle a child of the sweep. And then I can never remember, does it go here or here? Well, let's go there and see what we got here. And let's see what happens. All right, so that works out. And if we get, so the one thing I don't like about this is that it renders really slow, right? So I'm trying to zoom out, and it's super slow. So you can actually turn off, you know, the sweep while you're working, and then you gain your speed back, kind of get things ready to go in your render, and then you can turn it back on. All right, so that's method number 2 to go ahead and get those splines to render. I'm going to show you one other one, and you know, I hope it's still available. I need to check it out. So if I right-click Uber Tracer, there's a free plugin from Tools 4D, and if I apply this tag, Tools 4D Solid Spline Tag, it'll actually just render the splines for us, right? So if I come in here, I'm going to change the radius to I'll try 0.5. Let's see what it looks like, and hit Control R, and it's preparing. All right, so we can see them. Obviously, that's way too big, so let's go 0.05 maybe. All right, we can see them in there. Okay, and that might be a little bit too small. Let's go 0.1. And you know, I don't want to bore you guys with changing all these settings. Just trying to get something that's acceptable here. All right, so that looks pretty good. And the nice thing I like about this is everything stays nice and fast, and we don't have to go back and turn things on in order to render this out. So great method. I'm going to check that out. I'll put a link with the project. I'm hoping that that's still available because it's really powerful. I think there's other plugins that are similar, that do a similar thing too. Okay, so we have our text. We broke it up into even polygons. We're breaking it up using some MoGraph tools, and now we got those polygons connected with our splines, and our splines that are being rendered out. Piece of cake, right? Now, global illumination looks really great with this look, but you know, the render times can really be high, and it's been kind of frustrating to try and get global illumination to work on this without flickering, even in R15 here. So I'm going to show you a free lighting setup, and there's a couple different versions of this that I've seen. And the one that I'm going to use is the Illuminati. I like it just because it's super fast to set up and renders fast, looks good. So if I zoom out here just a little bit, you can see that basically we have lights cloned onto a sphere. And if we come in here to the Illuminati tab, we can change the complexity. So if we crank this up, we get more lights. So I'm going to go right there. Intensity, let's see. Oh, let's see here. Let's zoom in and kind of see what we got. I also want to, I'm going to increase the shadow map just a little bit. Let's see what this looks like when we render it out. So it'll take just a second with those splines. All right, so not a bad start. Intensity is a bit high. Let's see what this looks like here. Not bad. Now let's do this. Let's go ahead and I'm going to add a texture to the spline just so we can see them a little better. I'm not too worried about making things beautiful right now. Okay, so just want to make sure I can get you guys on the right track as far as getting these things set up, and I'm hoping you guys make some great looking renders and send them my way. Okay, that doesn't look too bad. Now, one thing that you can do with the Illuminati as well, if you come in here, is you can adjust the, you can actually, color these polygons a little bit in here. So let me just show you. Let's just make this a little bit brighter. So I'm gonna make this really blue, and let's maybe go yellow. Okay, so if you want, the polygons kind of change color depending on their angle, you can do that with the Illuminati and kind of get some interesting looks, okay, depending on what you're going for. So I'm going to go ahead and undo that for right now. All right, so that is Uber Tracer. That's method number 1. Okay, so let me show you another plugin that we can use to accomplish a similar look. It's going to be just a little bit different with some other options. Okay, so if you haven't used Uber Tracer before, really encourage you to download that. Like I said, I'll provide the link there in with this project. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and delete Uber Tracer. And our next plugin that we're going to use is Rake Connector. Now, with this one, we'll bring our source in, and our source is our text. So I'm going to drop that in, and let's give it a second here, because I think our polygons are fairly high. Might be a little bit too high for this one. Let's maybe go. All right, so I just changed it to points and clones. Okay, and we can change the amount and we can change the starting point, but let me show you. And one other thing to be aware of, as soon as you drop this in here, it's set by default to hide your object. Okay, it's hiding our MoText polygon object here. So we want to change that to show, okay, to make sure that we can actually see it. So you can see that our spline density is pretty high, and let's see if we can reduce this a little bit. So with these in here, you can change where the end point is, where the starting point is. There's a lot of options in here to get some different looks here, right? This looks a lot different than the other one. Let me just show you one thing though, one problem here that we have with the PC connector. If we come in here and we start going through, right, the lines aren't moving with our polygons. The lines are stuck right where they were when we applied the effect. And I don't even think changing this to local. Let's see, does this work? No, let's change this to cloner maybe. No, that doesn't work either. All right, so let's take a look at a workaround to make this plugin work, because there's some, a lot of options here that you can play with to get some really cool looks. Okay, so let's take a look at how do we actually get this thing to work. So I'm going to come in here to MoGraph and do, what do I want here? I want matrix. And for the matrix, I'm going to change this to object. And we want it to generate thinking particles. And the object is going to be this mode text. Okay. And we need to apply a thinking particle group to this. So let's go up here to tools. No. Where are we? Simulate. Thinking particles. Thinking particle settings. All particles. Maybe. Let's try it again. All particles. Okay, and on the matrix, we want to leave it checked because we want it to be active, but we don't want to see it. So I'm going to hold down Alt and double click that to get red, so that they will not render, we will not see them. So now when we go through here, so the other thing we need to do in our PC connector, we need to get rid of our text here. Let's go back to the beginning. And let's go to simulate thinking particle settings, and I want to drag our all in here. So now our line should follow the thinking particles. There we go. Okay, and I have some of the settings weird in here. Let's see what's going on. Okay, because I messed with this endpoint. Alright, that's too many. Alright, so we are starting to bog down here. Let's bring it down. Alright, so we're getting a different look with this plugin, and you can see that we need to tweak this because we have a ton of splines in here. Let's go ahead and make this thing so we can see it real quick, just for fun. Let's make it orange so it kind of stands out. Let's do a little render here. This might take a second here to prepare because, like I said, we're a bit dense on here, rendering shadow maps. Okay, but if we take a look here, if we take a look at the render times, not too bad, right, on render time actually. So that took 20 seconds, looks pretty nice, okay? I'm pretty happy with that. And, even with it being that dense with splines, it's looking pretty cool. Okay, now in PC connector, like I said, there are a ton of different options in here for you to play with. I'm not going to go through and pull on all these levers. I'll leave that up to you guys. But definitely get in here and play around with these settings. A few of the settings might not work quite as I thought they would, but they do give you some interesting results. And just because things are slowing down a little bit, like I said, I really encourage you to try PC connector for this look. Okay, get in here and slide the sliders, see what they do. Okay, because you can definitely get some interesting looks in here. Because one other thing too that is kind of cool is in the spline, you can do a grow distance. So if you turn this to like far, the splines. Let's see if I can get this to work. So the splines will grow, right, according to how far they are. And so we can change like the maximum length here. We need to really crank that up. Let's see if I can get it to go. Oh, okay, we need to bring it down. See, that's one of the things that I wasn't expecting. So as we bring it down, that actually grows. So if we, let's say we have it right here, and let's bring this back to the beginning. Okay, so this one is, see, this is the thing, is with PC connectors, sometimes you get some interesting results where things kind of tend to jump around a little bit. So for me, it's one of the ones that is a little bit harder to predict what it's going to do. But two, I'm just in here just cranking stuff around. I should be a little bit more scientific about changing some of this stuff around. Okay, so that's a good one. All right. You can also use PC connector just on a regular, if you just have cloned objects, you can use that. It just doesn't, if you have polyFX driving this, this object being kind of shattered, then you have to clone those thinking particles on there in order for it to work. Okay. Let me just show you what I'm talking about real quick. Let's just do a new project. Let's just make some spheres here. Change the radius. Let's go MoGraph cloner. And let's just make this grid array. And let's go ahead and go Effector. Let's go formula. And on the formula, let's take off scale. Let's turn up position. Okay, and if we go to plugins, and what were we looking at? PC connector. And if we put our source in there, if we put our cloner in there and do show, is that right? Connect points. Okay, so there we go. And as we can see, all the lines are connected. So if you're working with, you know, a typical cloner with objects, you don't have to do that little trick with thinking particles. Okay. Thinking particles are only if you're shattering an object using the technique that we're using. All right, very good. Let's jump back over here. All right, now that we have thinking particles already set up in here, let's take a look at one more free plugin to get this Plexus look. So I'm gonna get rid of PC connector. It's kind of slow. And I'm gonna keep the thinking particles there because this next technique utilizes thinking particles as well. So this next one is called, what is that thing called? It is called Rake Connector. Okay, and with this, all we have to do is drop in our thinking particle group. So we go to simulate, thinking particle settings, all. Let's throw that in there. And here we have max number of arrays. So obviously I want to crank that thing up. I like a lot of arrays, right? And then we can do our radius. How far out, right, can these lines actually go? So if we take this radius really small, they have to connect lines to a polygon that's close. If we increase it, they'll attach to a polygon that's further away. And this is nice because you can really have pretty fine control over how many rays you have. Okay, but for this particular object, it's a little, I don't really like the splines going from one corner through here that much. So we can actually, let's turn this down. Okay, and let's go ahead and animate this and see what this looks like. Okay, let's go ahead and make this so we can see it. Let's get in here kind of close to where we can make it look real pretty like. Let's render that out and see what it looks like. Okay, and that's looking pretty good. Okay, I like that. So Rake Connector, not a ton of controls in here, right? But still looks really good. Because like if we come in here and we just animate this radius and animate the max raise, we can get that nice unfolding look, right? And let me see here. So we'll probably, so I'm doing a little render so we can see them right there, right? If we change our max raise, I don't know if it'll let you go down to 0. Let's do 1, right? So, and I wonder if we take that down to 0. All right, so we got rid of them completely, right? Let's just, for fun here, let's just animate these. And let's take this back up to, let's see. So it's getting a little slow here. All right, let's set that keyframe there. And then let's go back to the beginning. All right, so thinking particles, kind of got to make sure we get it all the way back to 0. Let's see what this looks like as we come through. All right, so this is not, that doesn't really, for the look we're going for, I don't really like that, right? It's pretty jittery. Evidently, maybe these, for this, this is the first time I tried animating these. Let's actually delete the track. So for this particular look, maybe this isn't such a good option here. Why is it doing that? I think it's because our radius is too high. Let's see now. So I'm wondering if we keep the, let's see, let's maybe keep the max raise the same and animate the radius. So let's bring this out here and let's start with 0. Let's see what that gets us. No, it almost seems like the connections are made right at the beginning. So let's delete the track. Okay, let's try. Because right here at the beginning, it's making connections, right? And then those connections are persisting all the way through. So I bet even if we animate our maximum number raise, I bet this is not going to work. I hope I'm wrong, but yeah, so wherever however many connections you have for those splines you have before this animation starts is kind of what you're getting. So that was a good learning experience. So if you want to use Rake Connector, it probably isn't your best option for this particular look that we are working on right here. But if you have something where all the connections are already in place and you just want to animate it from there, I think it's probably not a bad way to go. Okay, just be aware that we can't get these splines to completely disappear at the start. Okay, and like I said, each one of these plugins has its own ups and pluses and minuses. So just be aware of that. One other cool thing about using the Rake connector or even the PC connector with thinking particles is we can actually have these splines detach from our object, right? So we should be able to. Let's see. So if we apply, let's go in here to the presets, and let's see if I can remember where these are. I believe they are not. I believe they're in Studio. So if we go to Studio, Simulation, Thinking Particles, Presets, Effectors, let's do where do we have let's do Spherical Wind. So in theory, this spherical wind should affect the thinking particles, but it won't affect the polygons, and therefore we could obviously keyframe the spherical wind to kick in at a certain time. Let's just see if this works, but we need to put in a particle group. So let's go in here and simulate thinking particle settings. Let's bring that down into there. So we're going to affect all of them, and let's give it a little bit of turbulence. All right, let's see what we got here. All right, so that works out. It affects our splines, and like I said, we'd probably want to keyframe the strength. And so let's go ahead and change this down to 0, and probably change our turbulence to 0. So as this thing comes out here, we could then, let's set another keyframe. Let's go ahead and increase the strength, increase the turbulence. And let's maybe move this over here. No? All right, so for some reason, Rake Connector, once those connections are made at the beginning, it will not. Maybe this isn't, maybe Spherical Wind, maybe, oh, what did I do? Oh, I think I got rid of the, let's crank this thing up. All right, so let's try that now. Okay, so this was 0 here, so let's move this out a little bit, because I want those splines to follow the polygons for a little bit and then start to separate out. Okay, let's try this. All right, there we go. All right, so I don't know if that particular look right there is useful or not, but definitely gives you some options to think about, right? How can you use effectors that affect the thinking particles but don't affect the polygons to kind of give you some different interactions, right? It's kind of nice to be able to separate those two. And there we have it. 3 different ways to get the Plexus look right here in Cinema 4D. I really encourage you to download all those plugins, give them a shot. Each one has its own strengths and weaknesses, and I think between those 3 you should be able to create kind of a cool, interesting look. I'll put a link to all these plugins along with this project file so you can jump in and download those. If you create something cool, as always, shoot me a link. I'd love to see what people create with this, and hopefully there was something new in here for you even though this look has been replicated a lot of times in Cinema 4D and in After Effects. So thank you for watching. Have a good day.